This is for Nulu my Kushla from Melbourne Musos Facechook live, screening live tonight at 6 p.m. News has just come to hand that the drummer of the 60s English group, The What, has just been kicked out of the band for blowing up one too many dunnies at a Hilton hotel, situated at 10 Downing Street. Look, he's crawling up my wall. London's hairy, very small, now he's up above my head, hanging by a little thread. Creepy, creepy, crawly, crawly, creepy, creepy, crawly, crawly, creepy, creepy, crawly, crawly, creepy, creepy, crawly, crawly.
Boris the Spider. Boris the Spider.
He's come to a sticky end. Don't think he will ever mend. Nevermore will he crawl round. He's embedded in the ground. Boris the Spider. Boris the Spider.
Very, very well organised. What they do... Get me a ladder.
Now he's dropped onto the floor heading for the bedroom door. Maybe he's as scared as me. Where's he gone now? I can't see. Boris the Spider. Boris the Spider.
Boris the Spider. Boris the Spider.
Creepy crawly, creepy crawly, creepy crawly, creepy crawly.
Oh! Creepy crawly, creepy. Boris the Spider. Boom, boom, boom. Hey! How's everyone going tonight? Oh! Boris the Spider. Hey! My name's Chris Quinlan, and this is Melbourne Musos Facechook Live on a very cold Melbourne Friday. Ooh, back to the and the number 4, and there we go. Hey, all right. Oh boy, what a week, what a week, what a week. Ooh, there we go. I've said that a few times now. Let's move on. Okay, tonight's show is all about empty sounds. Okay. The empty can rattles the most, as they say. Some people might say that about me. But what this show is about is the in-betweens. Empty sounds. Okay, I've got some horns. I'm going to bring the horns back very quickly. But anyway, hello camera 1, camera 2, camera 3 up there. Hello everyone on this miserable Melbourne Friday. What we have tonight, the subject I would like to talk about is empty sounds, empty spaces. What often happens is sometimes we drummers need to lead the rest of the band on sometimes a very tricky kind of passage of music. I remember one Frank Zappa tune called Alien Orifice, and the middle section was a beast to play. Okay, and I had to come up with something for the lads in the band for this particular tune. And what it is I started just playing regularly, but then the rests I would make an empty space. Now, in the most basic of ways, we were talking about the other week, nice grouping. What you have is semiquavers, right? 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. Beautiful. But what happens if one of the things I've been talking about or teaching a lot this week is syncopation. A lot of my students like to refer it as Stinko-pation because sometimes it's a bit tricky when the Stinko-pation is on the 1. You don't have that oink right there. So what starts to happen is sometimes with syncopation, which is the accenting of a normally unaccented beat, what you do is sometimes the syncopation is the taking out of the first beat, which sometimes is quite off-putting. Now let me do that in a basic way with an empty sound. Okay. So what happens is you might have 1 eana, 2 eana, 3 eana, 4 eana. Fine, 4 on the floor. Take it out. You can hear the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 eana, 2 eana, 3 eana, 4 eana, 1 eana. Look what happened. Oh! Do you see how the Remember the other week I was going banana, 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 all these kinds of things. So what happens is you have an empty sound. So what starts to go on is that if you've got a fairly tricky figure, okay, this goes to linear playing as well, of which paradiddles and mixed sticking reign supreme. But what starts to happen is if you've got certain things where you've got can you see it? Da da ooh ba ee ooh ah 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 ooh ee 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 ooh 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 ee 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 ooh 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 ee ee ooh ee ee ooh ee ooh ah ee ee oh yeah 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 ee ooh yeah quack 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 empty sounds. And what you've got is a way of being even. Da da ba ba beep ba ba doo doo ba da 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 ba dee ba boo ba da ba ba. Bring the boys back in. Ba da ba doo doo ba 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 ba. Oh, I threw myself into the next little bit. So what starts to happen is that if you've got in many ways, that could also be called hocketing if you want, where sometimes what goes on is that you've got some really broken figures and it's to and fro between the horns or whatever it might be. When you start to do that, say, in a rockabilly fashion, you've got lots of mixed sticking, which is the paradiddle-based things. And what you've also got is a couple of layers of a snare drum there. You've got your normal taps. You can have them very light. You know, white rolls when they're doing press rolls and things. Unless it sticks with a single shot roll. Very light. Very heavy, but they're all taps. Then you can rim shot. But what happens is there's these funny little fellas called ghost notes. Now, the only time ghost notes really, as a term, really appear is when you're playing funky business, you know, that kind of... little tiny little peppery things, you know, that boom. And now what I'm doing is, there's normal note, not a rim shot. There's a rim shot. And what starts happening, all these little peppery things in between, they're ghost notes, you see. And what happens with ghost notes, it's a funny thing because that's the only time they appear. If you're actually playing a snare drum piece and playing at the same level, they're never called ghost notes in any kind of classical way or anything like that. They're just played P. Okay, very, very soft. You have a P and it's soft, and every time you add another P, it's a very. So PP is very, very P soft, you see. And that's what goes on. And then, so what starts to happen is if you play the humble paradiddle, keep it loosey-goosey, ducky-wucky. There's the start of your ghosting, you see. Oh, to get ghosted. And that's how that works, you see. You start to get those little diddle-doo-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Now, I could rip out the regulars. You can start to talk about your Steve Gadds and your Dennis Chambers, who are big on all this sort of business, big on their Stinko-pation. Ooh. And, I tell you something out of the blue. This is not on the script or anything here. Last week I was doing the flamenco ula, all that, with the hemiola from Española. And afterwards I thought, it's about time I had pulled out my old vinyl of Aldimiola, who was doing the hemiola from Española. And I brought out the Casino album, 1978. Wasn't Steve Gadd a gun on that from 1978? Whoa. And didn't the double paradiddle loom large? Oh my lord, the chart for that would have been dots, 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 black dots. There you go. Anyway, I diverse. So what it is when you're actually doing this kind of thing, bring back the lads and the ladies. Ooh. There you go. And that's what happens. So what you've got is the in-betweens is what I'm talking about here. Now what I'm doing here is delaying It's a hemiola from Espanola with El Dimiola. And delaying putting in the bass drum. There you go. All of a sudden I'm evoking the El Dimiola from Espanola with the hemiola that you need a cream for. There you go. So that's it. That's that. So that's what you've got there. I've talked about empty sound. I've talked about ghost notes. In betweens. There it is, and what starts to happen with that is one of the things about music is that you really do take everything quite literally, okay? When you're actually playing something like what's he building in there? Tom Waits. Yeah! What's going on there is I'm playing a C blues scale. And what happens is that when you're doing things like that, you're actually dealing with things like, well, when you're dealing with a C minor pentatonic, it's mostly the steps, 5 of the steps, of the 7 steps of the minor scale. However, when you do a blues scale, you bring in the Diabolus in Musica. Sounds like, where's all the blowflies coming from? Ooh, the devil in music. Aussie. That, therefore, does not belong in the scale. So therefore, it's an accident. So what do you call it? An accidental. That's where it comes from. Music is quite literal. You see, that's what goes on. And sometimes what goes on is an accidental. Gives the scale a little bit of spice, that kind of thing. Last week with the flamenco, I was talking very much about the Phrygian mode, a bit like Melbourne weather. It wasn't even worth that. But what it is with the Phrygian mode, it has a flavour, okay, because you have the flattened second and the flattened third, and the flattened sixth and the flat seven. It's a very flat. It's kind of thing. It's a bit of a darker minor than the natural minor, which has 3 flats in the formula, and then a light minor is the Dorian mode. Only has 2 flats, you see. And what happens then is that you can start to treat your music like, oh, I need this sound. Oh, well, I'll use a Lydia mode. Oh, I'll do this, and that's wonderful, and it's quite literal. It's very literal. Music is literal. One of the big things about music is that if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, waters like a duck, it's probably a fucking duck. the Spider. Who knows that old tune? Boris the Spider. Oh, it's an old Who classic from the 1960s. And it's off a quick one while he's away. But I first got to know it when I bought the Who's Greatest Hits. And at that point in time, when I was a young whippersnapper, the album was called Meaty, Beaty, Big and Bouncy. Brr. Oh, yeah. And what happens is that what you're dealing with is that it's literal. You look at it and you wonder, why does it have that name? Why is it called an accidental? You know, that kind of business. All that biz, Nick Cushion. Oh God, I have Cheerio. We haven't had Cheerio for a while. I'm saying all my usual lines to you now. But what happens is that it's literal. If it walks like a duck, you know, that kind of thing. You know, if you've got things like. Empty sounds, you know, sort of biz. There you go. And then what happens is that when you're getting into that kind of business, you can layer it down like. And then what goes on with that is that's a rock beat. You see, I'm going to take the section out yet again. And what I'm going to do now is to start to wrap them all together, you see, and start to really multi-layer a beat, you see. Now, there's nothing wrong with... That's fine. First thing... why not move the right hand like I've done in the past? I love my continuity, and a couple of episodes ago I was talking about Budgie and beloved Rob Hurst from the Oil Schmate. I always talk about them in a pair because they did great tom work with keeping the beat there, right? So you've got this. This is where we're starting. 1 and 2. Walla walla walla. Walla walla walla. Ghost notes. Hi-hat. Rim shot. Hi-hat. Bonham style. Over to the left, bass drum. Bring the boys back in. Walks like a duck, walks like a duck, walks like a duck, mate. And that's what it built up to from a walks like a duck, quacks like a duck. I nearly did Ginger Elvis tonight. Waddles like a duck, and you know why. It's probably a... I don't know where that comes from. Yeah, I did. I nearly did Ginger Elvis. And there you go. Because Elvis is the king this week with all the movies and everything. And so, I better start wrapping up the show, I suppose. Now, what happens is I'm talking about empty sounds. You know, over the last little while, we've heard nothing but empty sounds. Empty, empty, empty. Everyone's yelling, and it's all empty, empty, empty. That's what I'm getting at. If you hadn't worked it out before. And then what happens is you can start to get your empty sounds in music when you're getting quite syncopated figures. You can actually create things like, well, if you go to a cymbal, a bit different than a tom. Quack, 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 quack. So when you put it together, yeah. Boris the Spider. Oh, there you go. So you start to build it up. And what starts to happen is when you're doing this, there's a thing called a threshold. You'll get it if you've got an electronic drum kit, where you might be playing here, and below the threshold. You have to be very careful. And then you bring it up, and then you can treat it like a volume control. You see, E, like that, and there's sound number 1 here, sound number 2 there, and sometimes there's sound number 3 here, or it could be just half and half. It often happens with my students when they've got an electronic kit, and I tell them to go across to the ride cymbal pad, and next thing you're getting, you think, oh, what's going on? And what happens is a threshold. So part of the control thing is to stay under the threshold or stay over the threshold, like. Then you move between the two. That was the name of the song. Anyway, but I better get moving, and what goes on is empty sounds. And let me go over everything. I've done the ghost notes. You've got the in-betweeners. You've got the ghost notes. You've got the tap. You've got the rim shot. Oh, the rim shot! There we go. And then don't forget, you could well have your... It's a spider. Spider, yeah. And yes, we've had a whole week of that, haven't we? Oh, in the news, it's very creepy crawly, creepy crawly, creepy crawly. I love that song. Who don't? You remember that song, don't you? It's the Who's comedy song, right? Written by John Entwistle, their wonderful bass player. Okay. The Ox. And it's Boris the Spider. Oh, I love that song. It's so funny. You know, it's just a comedy piece. So I love and leave you, I suppose. I've got everything done there, I suppose. I've got the jungle drums I did. Oh, Genie Krupa. And then I'm out of here. And I've done everything else. I've done enough ducks, haven't I? Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, we're out. Oh. I'll have this up for you. I'll have this up tomorrow. Thank you, everybody. Boris the Spider.